I'm Rebecca King Ferraro.
And I'm Michael Sean Breeden, and you're listening to Conversations on Dance. On today's episode of Conversations on Dance, we are joined by Katlyn Addison, principal dancer with Ballet West. Katlyn takes us on the journey through her early training days in Canada, the decision to take a risk by leaving her first major company for new terrain, and how that risk has paid off through years of hard work and steady promotions. Katlyn will be making her premiere as Odette Odile in Ballet West's upcoming performances of Swan Lake, which is having its run this February 9th through the 17th. If you are in the Salt Lake City area and would like to purchase tickets, visit balletwest.org. Good morning, Katlyn. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an early morning for you, but you've got to get it in before your full day of rehearsals. So we're super appreciative that you're taking the time.
Yeah, it's so great to chat with you guys. And yes, it is early here, but it's okay.
We'll have our coffee all together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so of course we want to hear all about your incredible career and where you're at this point in it. But we always love to start at the beginning with guests we haven't spoken to before. So if you could just tell us a little bit about how you first became interested in ballet or maybe dance at large, just a little bit about your early years as a baby ballerina.
Well, probably similar to a lot of dancers, I used to dance around the house all the time. So, and then also my sister did dance. So she was dancing, and I, of course, wanted to do what my big sister was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just, we started at Debbie Thompson Academy of Dance, so a small school back home, and we used to compete. And I did jazz, tap, ballet, acro, lyrical, like all the work.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
performing with showbiz and footloose competitions. And that was little. And then I want to say I was 9 years old. And there was the National Ballet School was right downtown, right nearby where my dad used to work. And I did an audition for them. And I ended up getting into the National Ballet School of Canada. And it's sort of crazy now as an older dancer to think like that's when I decided I wanted to be a ballerina, is at 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know, right? And
Yeah.
so I was 9 and I got into the National Ballet School of Canada, and I had to take it really serious because we would, we'd have school in the morning, then we'd have our ballet classes, and then we'd go back to school, and then we'd have like a character class or a Spanish class, flamingo class, movement class, and then we would continue our point class, and like it was very structured. So that's when I decided I wanted to be a dancer when I was 9 with the National Ballet School of Canada. And then from there, I spent 2 years there, then went to Quinte Ballet School of Canada, which was like 2 hours away from the city because I'm from Ontario, Canada. So 2 hours away from Toronto, the city. And I went to Quinte Ballet School, and then from there, tried out for summer intensives throughout high school, dancing with Boston Ballet, Pacific Northwest Ballet, Banff summer program. They did like an apprentice trainee program. And then Houston Ballet, and getting into Houston Ballet and dancing with HB2, and then getting into the company as a core dancer, and then made my way to Ballet West about 4 years later, actually 7 years later. So I spent 7 years at Houston Ballet. And then now I'm with Ballet West for 12 seasons, which I didn't think that would happen.
Well, we want to dig into all of that for sure, but I'm very curious what made you interested to look at summer programs in the US. You could have stayed in Canada. What made you interested in that particular change?
Well, when I was at the National Ballet School of Canada, there was, I want to say, one dancer of color in the company at the time. And a lot of times they would have, actually, I don't think she was in the company. My mistake. She was in the school, but she was in grade 11. Yeah, she was in grade 11. And they would have this program where they allowed the younger dancers to have big brothers or sisters. And she happened to be Tina. And she's actually in the company still as a principal ballerina.
Wow.
She was my big sister. So I know. So I think I didn't realize actually at a young age, like the power of seeing somebody that looks like you. And when I was at the National Ballet School, she was the only one I saw that looked like me, that was right about to get to the company, and I'd watch her perform all the time. And I don't think Royal Winnipeg or Le Grand Ballet of Canada or any of the other main companies in Canada, I saw dancers of color.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I remember my mom was saying, well, Lauren Anderson is, the first Black principal ballerina with Houston Ballet, and she was still dancing. So it was key that I want to find somebody that was still dancing so I can see them perform. So that's
Yeah.
drew me into it. And my old ballet teacher, Mercedes Bernardes, she was the director of Quinte Ballet School of Canada, and that's where I went to after the National Ballet. She she was the one who really pushed me to go try out for schools in the States because she was saying that there might be more opportunities for me and I would be able to see dancers that look similar to me. And
Mhm.
that's what inspired me, I want to say, and that's what motivated me was Mercedes to push me to try for the Houston Ballet. There's a dancer there that looks like you. You
Yeah.
just try. You may enjoy it. You may, and then also there's a little bit of the choreographers that come in the States are a little bit different than the Canada back then.
Mm-hmm.
Changed obviously now, but there was more diversity in the style of movement in
Mhm.
the States than in Canada.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
that's
Right.
what inspired me, yeah, to try the States.
Yeah. I mean, Lauren was such a dancer. I mean, like when you'd see those videos now and the musicality and just like that hunger for performing, um, I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't have a chance to see her dance. And so, I saw her on magazine covers and she felt like an important figure in the dance world. But then now to marry that to her actual talent is so wild. And you just think about what an incredible trailblazer she was that, this is like more than 20 years before most ballet companies were making any serious effort at including more people of color in their ranks.
Yeah, she was so dynamic, so expressive, and she just sucked you into her movement and you'd follow her along the whole story. And then she was so like precise with her footwork too, that
Hmm.
also I was drawn to. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and she also became a mentor. She still is to me a mentor.
Oh, nice.
Anytime I have something new coming up that I've never performed, that she's performed, I usually call her and just chat a
Oh,
little bit, give me something. Hopefully, she'll give me some things to think about while I'm performing. But a lot of times, she tells me to trust myself and to allow myself to just dance freely and to just follow my heart. So, and
mm.
trust myself mainly. It's to trust myself and that I can do it. So.
Those
Right.
connections are so important. I love that.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist, an amazing person.
Mm. So, what were some of your first years at Houston Ballet like? What were some of the rep that you were getting to dance? Your experience integrating yourself into a company for the first time. Tell us about those early years.
Oh man, let me think. My
Mhm.
first year with Houston Ballet, one that sticks out was when we performed Cinderella, Stanton Welsh's first Cinderella, and he recreated. And I just remember doing the point dance all the time, quite
Mm-hmm.
often. Because we would spend like, I want to say 6 hours. Oh no, I want to say a whole week on one section. So I do remember
Mhm.
being in the studio in my point shoes, doing one section that was probably about 5 minutes long for a whole week. So
Wow.
that was one thing that it taught me to get used to being in my point shoes for several hours in a day. And
Mhm.
There's no way to get used to it unless you're
no,
doing it, right? I
yeah,
mean, it's so tough.
it is. And also being a core dancer, and I was new. I would see the senior core dancers work and then just being thrown in at the last second, getting used to that, getting used to
Mhm.
standing and waiting and not actually being in the space to learn a lot.
Mhm.
So my first couple years, I do remember, or my first year, I remember it being a lot of times I'd be standing and waiting till like, I want to say the last 30 minutes for my opportunity to get in and dance
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
also perform at that high level that the rest of the core dancers were at. But also another piece that I remember doing my very first year was actually Christopher Bruce's Grinning in Your Face. And it's still to this day, it's one of my favorite ballets.
Hmm.
And it was a neoclassical piece. I think we were barefoot. And I remember dancing with a lot of the principal and soloist dancers. And it was my first year in the company. And that
Mhm.
was really, really special.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
going with Houston Ballet, because I feel like Stanton really pushed me at times. And then also I also didn't do work. So that also taught me patience, where sometimes I was getting a soloist opportunity for one rep, and then other reps I wasn't even in a show one time, one of the
Mhm.
reps. So it also taught me the patience and how to navigate the ballet world a little bit.
I'm not sure
You
if
know,
we've ever, sorry, if we've ever really touched on that, because that's such an experience that all new core members, apprentices can really identify with, is the waiting for your opportunity, sometimes all day long, just
Yeah.
standing in the back, trying to absorb everything, not having a lot of space, standing in those point shoes, which honestly, standing's worse than dancing in them, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
And
Because
then,
yeah.
yeah, and then sometimes right at the end, just having that opportunity and then having to be like, is this my moment to show them what I can do? And it's very nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And I spent a lot of times during because it's a union company, a lot of times during the 5-minute breaks, going over the choreography and trying it, or stepping into the studio next door, or even the
Mhm.
hallway, where I felt like nobody could sort of see me or watch me try to figure it out, so that whenever I was called upon, I was ready. And I want to say that was where I got a lot of my opportunities, was from
Mm.
that 30 minutes of just getting thrown in and performing or
Yeah.
doing my best,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
and somebody seeing the
Yeah, and
potential in me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
something that you also mentioned that I hadn't really thought about, or like very much just took me back to a place of being an apprentice and having to make those adjustments. But it's a different beast learning the steps and then doing it in the space. Like I really remember the first time I knew Stravinsky Ballet and Concerto Complicated Ballet, but I knew every step. And the first time they put me in with a group, I was a mess. Like didn't know how to be in a line, like was getting in other people's
Oh,
places and disaster. So how did you like maybe that's something we could talk about. We have a lot of, younger listeners or people that are new to companies, and like how did you start to navigate that? Like how did you zoom out to start to envision where you went in the space, not merely knowing your steps and being able to do them well, but being able to do it in the context of the work?
well, I would really, I think this comes from class a little bit, where in class, I would try to really make sure I learned every exercise. And still, even now, to help me pick up choreography quickly,
Mhm.
I really focus in class. So that like helps me get used to picking up choreography quickly. So when I was in this space for those rehearsals, I would really try to make sure I knew the choreography right away. And then I would stand sometimes in ways that I could see the lines. And I still do
Mhm.
that too. Like
Oh, yeah.
I'll stand at the back of the room, but then sometimes when I stand at the back, I can't actually see the lines in the spaces. So then I would move my body to like sometimes standing parallel or in the middle of the room, still on the
Mm.
side or even closer to the front, so that way I can see the spacing and the lines. And then I want to like commend all the senior core dancers too. They would also like literally right before I walk into the space, they would be like, be careful of this, da 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 da
Uh-huh.
da.
Oh.
So they were really gracious and kind to me to help me through it, and
Mhm.
just to make me aware. So I would just try to really be aware and really focus. And
Mhm.
and I still think I'm like that, where I'm like a horse with the blinders on, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
running my race to just not get distracted. It's hard, but that helped me, is where I would stand in the room and then to just pick up choreography really fast, so that way I could be ready.
Yeah.
And it just takes
Right.
time in practice,
Yeah.
as
That's
you guys.
such good advice. I think about class knowing all the combinations. Michael will laugh because I would always mess up combinations. I would not always be paying attention. But I think that's really good because it's so true. It's a muscle that has to be flexed and you have to continue, even though you're learning choreography all the time, every single day you have to learn combinations. And that just is so
Yeah.
smart to think of it that way, as like to help you with choreography too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a practice, right? I mean, still to this day, I still mess up combinations and choreography. I still blank out when I'm in the moment,
Hmm.
but it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So it sounds like Houston was a real baptism by fire. you found your sea legs, you learned this is where you learned like how to be a dancer, and you had some great opportunities there. And then sometimes where you were off. But what made you decide that it was time to, I guess, leave that nest and move on, experience something different?
Well, like I brought up, is sometimes I would be dancing and then sometimes I wouldn't.
Hmm.
So that was challenging. And I had a conversation with Stanton, and he did give me the freedom to, if I wanted to look around, I could. So right after that, and prior to that, actually, when I was in Houston Ballet too, I did YAGP because I was having trouble with my visa. So when I was having trouble with my visa, they were like, okay, what is ways for Katlyn to get more exposure in the United States, so that as a Canadian, so that she wouldn't have trouble with her visa, because for some reason, it just didn't work the first time.
Ugh.
Mhm.
During that time in HB2, I did YGP. For my contemporary variation, I won first for that, and then ended up performing in the gala in New York City. And then for my classical work, I came in third. So it was like great. That was great to add to my profile. Um,
Yeah.
so when it came time, 7 years later, when I was leaving Houston Ballet and had that evaluation with Stanton, I felt the same way. I was, mentally, it's hard going back and forth from dancing, getting an opportunity of dancing a soloist role in a main company of Houston Ballet, and then sometimes not dancing at all. So
Mhm.
then I did YGP. I chose to do a YGP. It was called a job fair that they were starting. And
Mhm.
I don't know if they still have it, but it was the first time ever they did it, where it was a panel of artistic directors, and it was one big class of, I want to say, over 1,000 dancers. And they made
Wow.
cuts every two exercises.
Mm.
So
Nightmare.
I know. So I decided to go to that. And it was very nerve-wracking, but it was
Yeah.
it was also at the same time, it was a great challenge for myself, because I had to really pick
Mhm.
myself out from the beginning, from the very first time I walked into the room. And that's what I always tell like my students when I'm teaching, is when you walk into a room, or for an audition, or even for a class, the you have to you have to present yourself in a way that you want to be seen. And I know that's
Mhm.
hard and a lot of pressure, but right away, a choreographer, or a teacher will know if they want to work with you,
Yeah.
from the way you carry yourself. So anyway, so I'm in this audition with a bunch of American and I think some Canadian artistic directors. And after the first two exercises, we got a cut. And luckily, I kept on going. And then after I think dégages, we made another cut. And after that one, some of the directors would come up to me and I guess poach me and talk to me about how I look and their interest in me. And then class just kept on going, and I made it all the way through. And throughout that time, Adam kept on coming up to me, the artistic director of Ballet West. And he was a familiar face, because I remember at Houston Ballet, whenever I was performing, I would see him around once in a while. And I think that's very common as artistic directors. If they want to do a certain ballet, they come to companies just to see. So he looked familiar, but I didn't know for sure what company he worked with.
Mhm.
Anyway, so when I was there, I went all the way through the audition, class part, then variations and contemporary with cuts every section. So very nerve-wracking. And
Wow.
right away, though, at the end of class, Adam offered me a job with Ballet West as
Wow.
a corps du ballet dancer.
And
So,
did you take it right
Mhm.
away?
yeah, not right away. I mean, I think I went
Yeah.
home, thought about it,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
interesting because I think that sometimes when you do auditions, you get to take the class of the artistic director or people part of of the organization. So you kind of get a feel, even if just slightly, what it's like. So what was
Mhm.
that like to kind of just really take a leap of faith?
Well, I remember speaking. I know I have to think back. I remember speaking to so many different directors. Like I remember even Cincinnati Ballet and Pennsylvania Ballet, or Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, then it was called, speaking to me, and
You were a
ABT.
hot commodity.
Well, it was just, thank you, but it was great for the confidence,
Yeah, yeah, of
and
course.
it was such a risk being around so many other like gorgeous dancers, so many other directors, but it was also financially, it was great, because auditions can be so expensive too.
Yeah.
But it was great that I had all of them there. It was you know, it was a challenging experience, but I feel like it was great because then I got to, put put a name, put a face to the name of all the directors and also have an interaction with them.
Yeah.
And it was also really nice that Adam kept on coming up to me and talking to me throughout the process. So it was really good to feel, wanted, or that he
Sought
was,
after in that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, sought after.
Mm.
And that it made my decision very easy because as dancers, and I try to tell my students this too, it's you want to go with a director that wants you to thrive and wants you to
Yes.
succeed. Like that's where you should go. Even if it isn't the main company you want to go for, who knows? You might make it the main company that other artists may eventually want to go to.
So
But you
true.
Right.
always, yeah, go for that company that the director appreciates you.
So you must have had a feeling then that for Adam, you weren't just filling in a blank. It wasn't like, oh, I need a core lady. Like that seems like he's
Yeah.
already giving you a clear indication that he's interested in developing you as a dancer.
Mhm.
Who knows? You in that moment, maybe even he didn't know it was going to be a principal dancer, but you had a sense like I have a journey with this person. It's not just like, okay, well, you're a body for this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could have been at that moment, but going into my career here, he's only shown me that his vision for the company is beautiful, that he wants artists who are totally different, but at the same time very similar,
Mhm.
you know, and that he really respects me and respects me as an artist, and it's been really, really great. It was a great decision to,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
We've been so
Right.
lucky to hear a lot about Ballet West recently on the podcast. It's been so fun. And that's one thing that feels like a through line is the way he wants to develop dancers and be really interested in their whole career trajectory. Not to say that other artistic directors don't want to. I'm just saying like it just is very interesting that we keep hearing that. And I just think that's really, really a great perk of being a Ballet West.
Yeah. Yeah. No, prior to this interview, I was listening to Allison and Evelyn's interview.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, I completely agree and align with everything they had to say. Like Adam does
Mhm.
have a great vision, and you see it
Yeah.
throughout
Right.
school going into the company.
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
great. I feel very blessed.
Well, looking at your trajectory, it seems like you had, fairly consistent promotions every couple of years. So it looks like that meant that you got to spend time growing in each level until you, in 2021, achieved the rank of principal. Um, I guess do you feel like that was the right way for you to sort of like, not slow, so it certainly doesn't look slow, but you know what I mean? Steady, very steady growth, just like giving you opportunity by opportunity, building from year to year. Like, what was that like for you?
Well, yeah, I do feel like it was sometimes when I did feel slow, but when I look at it, when I look at it overall, it was not slow. I had to be patient.
Yeah.
And like obviously I trust Adam, so he had a vision for, I guess, my career, you know, and you can see it through the work that I do, going all the way down to right now. Like this is my first time doing Odile, and I'm premiering as in Swan Lake this in 2 weeks. Whew. But I've never done that. I've never been Odette Odile yet, as an artist. So, and I've been a principal now for I think 2 years. Yes, 3 years. 3 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. I had to think about that,
Mhm.
but and going backwards, like doing Onegin, being Tatiana for that role, and then also Juliet the year before that, and trying to think other roles that I was getting the opportunity, but it was slowly and steady going through each role, through each ranking. And even from, I want to say it was actually from core to demi soloist. I think it was in Jewels, I got to do emeralds. And that one, and also when we went on tour, I was able to do that. And also the tall girl lead in Rubies. In Ruby.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So it was like those roles that he was pinning me into, where he was also, I guess, allowing the audience to know who I am and know me. And sometimes I think maybe that's why it took time to keep on going, because the audience also has to, appreciate my work and sort of fall in love with me. I think that's a part of it as well. And then also maturing as an artist, I think it takes time. And yeah, I've been patient. There's a reason for it. It's been hard sometimes, but I feel very blessed that it was like every other year once I became a demi soloist that I got promoted. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, like, when you're saying like that lead up, Juliet, well, it's the least technically challenging of those, right? So it's like you get to be on stage for a full length, be really, I mean, you're Juliet, of course, but you're also yourself. You don't have no 32 fortes to work
No.
about. And so, but now like you have it in the back of your mind, like, okay, well, sure, I have 32 fortes, but I also know I have the experience of having anchored an entire evening by myself before. So it's just taking the next step towards that
Yeah.
level of artistic achievement.
Yes, exactly. And I do feel like it was like I had to learn how to be an artist, to tell a story first before, because your technique, after a while, you have to just trust. And hopefully when it comes to those 32 fuetes, I could just trust in that.
Yeah.
Or I will trust in that. But leading up to it, the previous years, yeah, it's helped me be able to tell a story and grab the audience attention for a full length with artistically before I get to this big one,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
I want to talk about Odette
Go
Odile.
talk about. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Because we're going to make sure we put this out so that it's coordinating with those performances. So tell us a little bit about first what it was like to find out that you were going to learn it, and then what the process has been like. Because it's just, there's so much work, like you're saying. It's not just the technique. There's the working on the acting, the story. There's so much that goes into it.
Oh, well, when they put up the casting for it, like I was so excited, but I was so nervous too, because a role, and I should have said this actually in the beginning, but Swan Lake was one of the ballets that I saw when I was young that I was like, I want to do that. I want to be that. And I remember seeing Karen Kane perform Odette. He was stunning, like just so dynamic, just gravitating to watch. So I remember that as a child watching the National Ballet perform. And so now getting the opportunity, I was so excited. I was nervous because I was working with a newer partner that I've never partnered with before. So that's exciting. David Hoffmeyer, he's a soloist right now in the company. And yeah, we get to partner together for that. And I was just excited to get in the studio and start learning. My toes killed the first week. And I still have plenty of corns. It's not really on my toes. They are killing. Because I'm really trying to articulate my feet, because I feel like Odette is so soft and delicate, but still strong and feminine. And, it's been really cool trying to visualize that, during the day I'm a swan, but at night, like when I first do that first entrance, it's like I'm like jumping out of the water. I'm visualizing that. That's what I'm visualizing. Like I'm jumping out of the pond onto the ground and sort of like shedding the layers of the swan off of me and becoming that woman, but I'm still a swan. So it's been it's been challenging too. Also, I've had some rehearsals where afterwards I'm like, what am I doing? Can I do this role? How do I achieve it? I need lots of coaching and private, to just achieve everything that I visualize, that I would hope that I can be and perform and bring to that role. And then Odile has just been fun. Like I feel like I'm naturally a little spicy,
Yeah.
as a Caribbean woman. So, I feel like I've been able to just tap into that and to not be too strong, but then also be to seduce my partner a little bit. So um it's been great. And artistic staff at Ballet West has been amazing. They have been awesome. They've been so patient. Jane Wood, who broke it down and taught us all the steps, as well as Bruce Caldwell. And they just made sure that we knew exactly what we were doing and we felt comfortable in the steps. And then Pamela and Adam came in, and they've just been like tearing it apart, every little detail, to make sure there's an intention behind every movement. And that part is the hard part, because I'll go to do it, and then, they stop us in the middle and they're like, what are you saying? What are you trying to portray? And then let's try it again, once you know in your heart and you have that intention in mind before going into it. So that has been challenging and but exciting, and like today I have my first rehearsal where I'm piecing it together in front. Exactly. That's how I feel. But I'm excited, and I think David is really excited too. And we're just ready to like take the space and just feel those nerves.
I wish we could see it.
Yeah. From beginning to end, how long would you say this process will have been? Like the first day of learning a step to making it on stage?
Well, we started, I want to say, January 8th, and our first performance will be February 13th, Tuesday, February 13th. So we do Tuesday.
That's fast.
What? I thought you were going to say June when you started.
Yeah,
I
heard
okay,
Jay.
yeah,
I was like
June. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, sometimes I'm like, do I need more time? Well, I don't have it. So
maybe in some ways it's better. You have less time to kind of think about it and just dive in literally and do it.
Yeah, exactly. But they also have been coaching us privately every day.
Right.
Every section. Yeah.
So when you're talking about this kind of like visualization that you're having, you're talking about kind of this shedding, these moments, how are you thinking through that? Is that kind of like, are you going home and writing some things down? I'm sure that because this process has been so fast, it's probably like all consuming, and you're just like Odette Odile at home too. So how are you doing some of that?
Well, I'm doing a lot of research, so thank goodness for Google and Instagram. So I'm able to look at other ballerinas and look at their process and see if I want to try any of that on, like an outfit, So that's helped a lot. And I've seen the Royal Ballet, they do some in-studio footage of dancers going through it. So I've been like paying attention to that, and they even have their artistic directors or artistic staff talk to some of the dancers during the process. So I've been watching that, so cool. Getting inspiration from that. I've also been trying to make sure I understand what I'm trying to say. And that comes from, Adam all the time in rehearsals telling us or talking to us on what we should be thinking about feeling. So that's been helpful. And then also I've been just, going into the studio by myself all the time and just marking through things, not really doing it, but marking through and trying on things and seeing if that port de bras works and that feeling works, or asking some of my coworkers, oh, what do you think this looks like? And does this look strong and powerful for one section, or is it soft enough, or where should I look to make my eyes look soft, But I think for me, it's a lot of visualization. It's a lot of feeling it internally and actually believing it, because I think that's where the sincerity comes in. If I believe it, then hopefully I can make you believe it as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then practicing the
You know,
step every day in class. We do all the ballet steps. So it's like every day doing all the releves, doing all the slow, controlled coming down positions. And yeah.
Yeah.
mm, I can't help but think about what you were saying about Lauren earlier, having how visibility matters and having her as someone to look towards, even if it's not like totally front of mind, you're connecting to this person who looks like you and you need that, but now you get to be that for others. And what does that feel like?
That has also been something that's been on my mind as well, is Odette Odile has been a role that a lot of ballerinas know about. And I'm always thinking, I hope that I inspire that young dancer that looks like me. And I hope that she can see, or he can see my work and be inspired by it. Ballet West does have a lot of diversity for a classical ballet company through the company. And the second company, there's quite a bit of diversity. And I don't know, I just hope I inspire the dancers, not even the ones that look like me, just all of them
Mhm.
to just see my work and see also when I struggle, so that,
Mhm.
and then, learn from
Yeah.
that too. And I hope
I like
I am a good example to them.
Right. I also like that you clarified. You said, well, not just like little girls, like anyone. Like it's kind of just
Anyway,
the anyone that feels different, right? It's like I remember on the SAB documentary, there was a girl of color who was not Native American, but she was like, like Maria Tall Chief is my reason that I wanted to be, it's just like someone that's different. You don't have to be exactly that person, but you want to see yourself through the lens of someone else and their own journey of being different and still succeeding and blazing the trail for them. So I think I like that you made that clarification.
yeah, and I try not to be anyone like anyone else, and
Hmm.
um, that's what I hope they see. I hope they see that, Kat does not look like any of the other principals, but she's able to be a beautiful white swan,
Mm-hmm.
black swan, So that's what I try and I stand firm on, is to just constantly just be me,
Mm-hmm.
not try to be like anyone else. Even if Lauren is my inspiration, to not be like her, but to,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
learn from her, but to stay true to myself and my authentic cat isms all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that goes back to your research that you're talking about, that you're finding you're not just looking to one dancer or one company when you're like looking online. You're kind of bringing whatever works for you and bringing it all together. And that's a true artist deciding what you want to do. I want to talk a little bit too about the speaking that you're doing about diversity in ballet. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, a lot of times I just, when it comes to diversity in the ballet world, I a lot of times just want the power of seeing somebody that looks like you is very important. And
Hmm.
I also see in a lot of different companies that they are bringing in more dancers of color. And I think that it's so important that we all can, there's beauty in people of all different races. And I guess it's the work that I'm doing is living proof of it. Like, I just try to make sure that I put myself in spaces that don't usually have somebody that looks like me, and that I continue to inspire this next generation. Um, I teach at the University of Utah as an adjunct part-time. I didn't this year just because of the workload of dance, but I've done that over the years, so that it allows me to also be within universities. And I've gone to other universities like OU and the University of Wyoming. Actually, I was there last summer, and where it was like I was putting myself in an environment that doesn't usually have teachers that look like me, to give that exposure to those dancers. And
Wonderful.
yeah, it's sort of hard. I just try to live that change, and to hopefully put myself into spaces that may not see somebody like myself, and hopefully
Right.
inspire.
I mean, Salt Lake City has changed demographically, I'm sure, immensely over the time you've been there. But when you first came, Salt Lake City is famously white Mormon territory. So you had to kind of, I don't know about a leap of faith, but you knew what you were getting into and you chose to do it because of what you had like your own sense of self in that position, you know? I think
And it
it's
was
very
very hard.
inspiring.
Yeah, it was very hard at
Yeah.
first, because like you said, Utah, there isn't as much diversity as comparably to Houston Ballet, right? Or even Toronto,
Mhm.
Canada.
Right.
Um, but luckily, Adam kept me very busy with work. So I was in that creative space all the time.
Mhm.
And I do have a lot of faith. And Utah has changed, Salt Lake City has changed so much now over the years. So it's nice to see that change and see the people that are now migrating to Utah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just for our last question before we wrap up, I wonder, this is such a big milestone in your career, Odette Odile. What other aspirations do you have for your career going forward?
Well, these are great questions.
Mhm.
I just feel like you're going to do something so interesting. Want you to dance forever, but when that's part of your career is
Yeah.
done, I feel like moving forward, you're just going to do really wonderful things.
Yeah, I hope so. For dancing wise, I would love to guest perform again in another company. It'd be great to go back home to guest perform with the National Ballet of Canada, just because that's where I started. And I've done some guesting with the Scottish Ballet, and also Ballet West has done touring. So that's been great exposure to travel around the world and perform. So I would love to do that in my career before I finish, or even within the United States, like to guest with another company so that I'm in a different environment, like I was talking about,
Right.
and to see what that's like and hopefully inspire a younger dancer then, or anyone really in
Yeah.
that space. And then I also am really enjoying choreographing. So I've created a couple of works. I've choreographed for Kansas City Ballet, the University of Utah, Ballet West. And then last summer, for the first time, I created a piece for Ballet Jorgen in Ontario. So it was really
Mhm.
amazing going back home and creating a work for a company in Toronto too. And the Toronto Star did like a little piece on me. So it was great to also create an awareness in Toronto that I'm out there and I'm a classical ballerina and performing in the United States. So that was great exposure for myself. So I would love to choreograph some more and create in Canada and then teach still. I'm really enjoying, I love the joy of seeing a student um, tackle a skill and thrive at it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, being an academy director or an artistic director would be something I would love to do, or a resident choreographer. These are goals or achievements that I would love to get to.
Yeah.
I'm just still
Wow.
working at it.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to hear that the ballet world will be enjoying your talents one way or another for many years to come. This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, and Merit, for your rehearsal today and for the shows.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been so great chatting with you guys, and thank you for having me. And I'm excited for today.
Yay.
I'm nervous.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Conversations on Dance is part of the ACAST Creator Network. For more information, visit conversationsondancepod.com.